Compelled by great compassion, you taught the sacred Dharma. To dispel all wrong views, to you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Do not commit any unwholesome actions. Engage in perfect wholesome actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Om Sahaji Bhage Jukshing Meto Traham Re Rabling Shi Ni De Gen Padi Sangye Shing Du Mek Te Po Wa Ye Dro Kyu Nam Dak Shing La Chu Par Shuk. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this at the Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnayatayami. How wonderful it would be for all sentient beings to abide in equanimity, free from attachment to friends and anger toward enemies. May they abide in equanimity. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. How wonderful it would be for all sentient beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they have happiness and its causes. I myself will cause them to have these. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. How wonderful it would be for all sentient beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be free from suffering and its causes. I myself will cause them to be free from these. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. How wonderful it would be for all sentient beings to be never separated from the happiness which is totally beyond suffering. May they be never separated from this. I myself will cause them to be never separated from this. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this.
Yeah, then we can generate the mind of refuge and the attitude of bodhicitta. Yeah, the attitude of bodhicitta is really the basis of the mind training. So whatever your understanding is of those, try to generate the mind of refuge and the motivation of bodhicitta. So again, in this verse that we recite 3 times, usually the first 2 lines express refuge, going for refuge until we're enlightened. So going for refuge to the Buddha Dharma Sangha from now, from life to life, all the way up until we achieve enlightenment ourselves. And then the last 2 lines express the attitude of bodhicitta. So it's kind of like a dedication now, thinking by the force of whatever of the 2 collections of merit and wisdom that we accumulate, then may all of this become a cause for us oneself to become enlightened for the purpose of freeing all sentient beings from the oceans of samsaric suffering, right, from all suffering. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my 2 collections from explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my 2 collections from explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. From my 2 collections by explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all transmigratory beings. So let's begin with a little meditation. We ended the last session meditating on just the beginning of Tonglen. So let's just continue because, Tonglen, this practice, in general, the 2 methods of generating bodhicitta, the 7-fold cause and effect method, whereby we recognize all sentient beings as having been our kind mother, father, brother, sister, and friends, and so forth in past lives from life to life. and then generate the wish to repay their kindness, and therefore meditate on loving kindness and compassion, and then take personal responsibility to free them from suffering and establish them in lasting happiness, and thereby generate the aspiration to achieve enlightenment. So that's one method of generating bodhicitta. But Tonglen, I mean, the mind training is more focused on the other method, generating bodhicitta, where we equalize and exchange self and others. So it's got 5 steps mainly, but then you have to add bodhicitta at the end, because bodhicitta isn't really one of the steps. So yeah, it's where you try to generate an equal, recognize how oneself and others are equal in wishing to be free from suffering and wishing to have well-being and happiness, and that one's own aspiration for these is no more important than that of anyone else. And and since others are countless in number and oneself is only one, then we try to give more importance to others. And then recognizing all the, especially recognizing all the faults of a selfish attitude, of the self-centered, egotistical attitude, and recognizing how all of our suffering, in this life, all the harmful actions we engage in, which by which we harm others, disappoint others, betray others, belittle others, and the same for others, in regard to us, and in regard to each other. No, you can see so much harm. You can look at any of the harm that comes about in the world. It's almost always from a selfish attitude in someone's mind. So, while it's difficult to change other people's minds, the best place to start is our own mind. So recognizing how so many of the mistakes we make, the regrettable things that we've done in this life, and then all the results, and then we can infer, in the past life it's been the same. So then all the misfortune we experience through the force of karma we've created in previous lives, we can also infer, well, that also must have, whatever negative karma I've created before, just like in this life, also must have been because it's totally self-centered attitude. So then, like it says in the prayer we went over last week, banish the one to blame for all. No, the selfish attitude is the one to blame for all of our misfortune. So that's the second step, is recognizing that. The first step is equalizing self and others. The second step is recognizing the faults of self-cherishing. The third step is recognizing the great benefit of cherishing others. So, I think we also spoke about that before. What does it say in the prayer? I'll look at it. We went over that line last week, too. Meditate on the great kindness of all beings. There it is, the second line there. Meditate on the great kindness of all beings. So that's the that's the third step in the method for equalizing and exchanging self and others, is that recognizing the great benefit of cherishing others by thinking about the kindness of all sentient beings, generating, thinking about everything we have, all the physical things we have, every thought, experience we have, all comes about in dependence upon others. So everything we enjoy, even the Dharma itself, even the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, all arise in dependence upon countless sentient beings, because His Holiness the Dalai Lama, all of his positive qualities arise in dependence upon sentient beings. Why? Because the Buddha, the Dalai Lama, all of our spiritual teachers, they how did they become enlightened? How did they become bodhisattvas? By meditating on compassion. How did they meditate on compassion? By viewing sentient beings with kindness, by seeing the suffering of sentient beings and wishing to do something to relieve that suffering. So therefore, they generated compassion and dependence upon sentient beings. So in a sense, their compassion comes from sentient beings. It wouldn't exist without each and every sentient being, because the compassion of a bodhisattva, the compassion of a Buddha, it extends to every sentient being without excluding one. Therefore, we can't, even of all the sentient beings we see day to day, the human beings, the animals, whatever sentient being we can, we see or imagine, each one of them is an object of the compassion of all the Buddhas, the compassion of all the bodhisattvas. We can't exclude one. So in that sense, then each sentient being actually is a source of of the enlightenment of any Buddha, of the compassion of the bodhicitta of any bodhisattva. And since the Dharma comes about, because the Buddha teaches the Dharma, that the Dharma also comes about in dependence upon sentient beings. The Sangha also, because the Sangha come about in dependence upon the Dharma, then the Sangha also come about in dependence upon sentient beings. So really, sentient beings are the source, and each and every sentient being is the source of all of our temporal happiness and even all of our whatever spiritual, whatever benefit we receive from the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, whatever spiritual realizations we develop, all comes about in dependence upon sentient beings. So thinking about the great kindness of all sentient beings, that's the third step. And then, wishing to repay that kindness. Well, partly that, but actually the fourth step is called actually exchanging self and others. So recognizing on the basis of this, all the faults of the selfish attitude, the benefits that arise from other sentient beings, and the benefits from cherishing sentient beings, especially. Not only the kindness of sentient beings, but the benefit that comes to us in the long term from cherishing other sentient beings, from caring about other sentient beings. When we care about all sentient beings, then we benefit them. We use our lives in a meaningful way to benefit them. So we don't engage in actions that we regret. We don't engage in actions that are harmful, and rather we help. We use our lives to offer help, offer service, offer support to others, and then we feel happy about who we are, how we use our lives. Also, others are happy about us. We have many friends, and others like us. We have good reputation, and we have good connection with others. We have many friendships with kind-hearted people. So in this life it's happy. In future lives we have happiness. So much happiness of this life, happiness of future lives comes through by using our lives to benefit others and not being so concerned about ourselves in the short, in a worldly short-term way. So then seeing the benefit of the faults of self-cherishing, the benefit of cherishing others, then we actually exchange self and others. So this is where, the degree of attention and concern we usually have for ourselves, we place that on others. And the small degree of attention and concern we usually have for others, we place that on ourselves. So we exchange the degree of concern. So we try to be primarily concerned with others, kind of put ourselves last, not be too concerned about ourselves. So exchanging self and others. And then that's the fourth step. And then the fifth step is Tonglen. So that's what we were meditating on last week. That's where I want to pick up now and meditate just a little bit more in a short form. Because, the Tonglen, the actual, to meditate on Tonglen in an elaborate way takes a lot of time, a lot more time than we have. And that's what we, was part of the last module on bodhicitta we did. So just to kind of continue in a short way. So last week, there's a line, again, I'll point it out. There's a few lines regarding Tonglen. That's what we were doing on the basis of. Practice a combination of giving and taking. Giving and taking should be practiced alternately, and you should begin by taking from yourself. These two should be made to ride on the breath. All right, so we began last week by taking from ourself. So once again, we sort of set up the meditation by visualizing ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings, divided into three groups according to the way we ordinarily relate to others. So first is the group of friends, those people we typically like, we feel supported by, we feel naturally close to. So beginning with our parents or whoever we feel closest to. So we can divide into men and women. So we generally divide, imagine the women seated to our left, beginning with the mother of this life, then our aunts, grandmothers, and so forth, sisters, and then female friends and family to our left and behind us, and then to the right, our father of this life. It said father of this life because it's assuming that's one of the men in your life you find most supportive. But whoever is your main male caregiver, or you feel most supported, most close to, imagine that person at your immediate right, and then your other male friends and families to your right and behind you. So first visualize this group of friends. Feel how you're interconnected with them. And then next, a group of enemies or antagonists. So those we typically tend to dislike, want to be distant from, have aversion towards. So visualize these people directly in front of you, facing towards you at a comfortable, in a comfortable way, not right in your face, about to pounce on you or something, but at a comfortable distance, seated peacefully. Imagine them meditating together with you. And then all the other sentient beings, imagine seated around. And then imagine one representative from each group as imagine them in front of you, facing towards you. Because as we practice Tonglen, right, we begin like first taking, right, taking on the suffering. So first taking from ourselves, and then once we have some feeling for that, it's kind of stable, then we move on to the friend and imagine taking on the suffering of the friend, then to the stranger. Right, so in front of you, imagine maybe, in whatever way feels natural to you, imagine a friend, and then a stranger, and then one enemy, one person we typically dislike. So, so that's why you imagine them in front and begin with one specific person from each group, and then if you like, you can expand that attitude out to more people from each of those groups. And then with giving, it's the same order. So begin by, I think last week we were meditating on taking from ourselves, and then maybe moved on to a friend. I don't remember what. We'll begin by taking from oneself. I know some people, I've just seen recently, some people imagine like kind of splitting off a version of their self and imagine that in front, and then imagine taking from that version of the self. But I've never seen a authoritative text that says to do that. And for myself, I find that a bit uncomfortable. So, but if you find that more comfortable, that's also an option. Because taking from yourself, it is a bit, it's a bit not as straightforward how to do that as in regard to others, right? But I would suggest, the way I find comfortable is, so first of all, when we do taking, right, is taking on the suffering of others and putting it on our selfish attitude. So imagine your selfish attitude, this kind of malignant, malevolent, self-centered attitude is like a black ball in one's heart, and recognize how it's the source of so much misfortune and pain and suffering and disappointment and kind of, harmful actions of body, speech, and mind in this life and our countless past lives. So imagine this at one's heart. And then as you take on the suffering, so beginning with oneself, I would suggest just extracting, think of all the suffering in your body, in your mind, in the past, or even in your own future, that you have the potential, you have the karmic seeds to experience. So as you inhale, imagine like a magnet drawing forth graphite. Imagine drawing it all onto and putting it on this, directing it at this black ball in your heart, selfish attitude. And then as it comes into contact or comes close to that black ball, it transforms into powerful lightning beams or laser beams or lightning bolts, and then strikes the self-cherishing and then gradually reduces it. So like that, meditate for a minute or two, taking upon one's own suffering. So that, and then as you do that, you imagine you become gradually more and more free from suffering. And you do all this with an attitude of compassion for yourself. Basically this is a meditation on compassion. So with a compassionate, caring attitude for oneself, wishing oneself to be free from suffering. Then visualize in the way I described. So as put your own suffering onto self-cherishing mind, also try to feel that this selfish mind, it reduces in strength and size, and you feel kind of the ease of release from it. More and more. Think of all the pain that goes with this, strong self-cherishing. When others criticize us, it's so painful. Worrying about what others think about us. Worrying about how we look. Worrying about, if we're going to have success or failure in the future. Getting so upset the way people treat us. Causes so much worry, and causes so much loneliness. Yeah. So then as you get a sense of that, taking oneself upon oneself, then direct this attitude of compassion to a friend, and then a stranger, and then an enemy. I'll give you a few minutes now, so gradually at your own pace, in whatever way feels comfortable. Then imagine first may the suffering of this friend, may it ripen upon me so that they be free from it. Then as you draw it, as you inhale, with each inhalation, draw it into your heart and direct it at this selfish attitude. So their suffering comes out of them in the form of like black soot or smoke or like powder or graphite. Flows in. As it flows into you, it transforms due to your virtuous attitude, due to the power of your compassion. It transforms into a powerful laser beam or lightning bolt, strikes the self-centered attitude at your heart and reduces it, gradually destroys it. And you become more and more free from that. And that knot, a knot of selfish concern. And feel the mind feels more and more at ease. And the person you're taking on the suffering, they become more and more free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Mm. So before we move on to giving, just kind of conclude this taking by, thinking. I mean, we're just looking at how to transforming problems into happiness. So, think how all of one's own problems in this way, by doing this kind of practice, think of all of one's own problems, all the problems of others. They become transformed through an attitude of compassion for oneself, compassion for others. Recognizing the source of all these problems is this self-centered attitude. And then you can also think at the very core of that is this kind of ignorance, grasping at an exaggerated sort of self existing from its own side that is totally false. And then also, the negative karma, the other afflictive emotions and negative karma that come from that. So this black ball at one's heart actually can represent all of that, all the sources of suffering, self-grasping, selfish concern, attachment, anger. So try to see how this kind of practice of Tonglen is a way of transforming all of the suffering oneself experiences, the suffering experienced by others. Then all becomes a remedy to the very causes of suffering itself. Mhm. So gradually feel you're totally destroyed this self-grasping and selfish concern in your heart without a trace, as well as all the the seeds of all the other afflictive emotions. And also totally freed the three people, imagine in front of you, the friend, stranger, and enemy, are completely free from suffering also. And then we'll imagine giving, again beginning with oneself. So imagine all of your own. Yeah, again, this is a bit tricky, but we can think give to your future self. So all of the qualities of one's, we'll think all of one's possessions first, and then one's body, and all the merit, the virtuous karma, and positive energy or merit in one's mind. Imagine all transforms into, causes of happiness and forms of well-being and happiness for one's future in this life and also future lives, especially realizations on the path to enlightenment. So imagine all transforms into your possessions, your body, even your roots of virtue, all transform into causes of happiness and well-being in the present and also for the future. So imagine it kind of fills your body and mind with very beautiful light, like golden light, or whatever you find most attractive, most pleasing. And then once you have a sense of that, so this is meditation on love, wishing, may I be well, may I be happy. So it's love for oneself. And then extend the same attitude once you have some feeling for that. If you want, you can keep doing that, but if you have some, it's kind of feeling that's stable, warmth in one's heart, a feeling of kind of ease, then you can extend it to others, to first a friend again, and then a stranger, and then an antagonist. So as you offer your possessions, your body, even the roots of virtue, imagine with each exhalation, imagine it flows out from your heart towards them as like waves of, or like a stream of golden light, golden nectar light. And as it reaches them, it transforms into whatever is most beneficial, whatever is most helpful for them. Qualities of the body, qualities of mind, spiritual insight, realizations, and so forth. So like that for a few minutes. With each exhalation. Mm. And then finally try to combine these together. So with each inhalation, imagine drawing on the suffering of others, putting on one's this self-cherishing, self-grasping ignorance at one's heart, and destroying it. With each exhalation, offering up all that you enjoy, all your possessions, body and roots of merit, all your happiness, well-being, offer to others so that they enjoy. And this is really the essence of the mind training practice, no? Transforming problems into suffering. Transforming suffering into happiness. Or so that it becomes, when there's, when oneself has problems, when others have problems, we think how excellent, may it ripen upon me, and thereby may others be free from it. And whenever oneself has good fortune, we think excellent also, may it ripen upon others. So I think may all the suffering of others ripen upon me, and all my happiness ripen upon others. And then, by the way, it's actually the best thing for us, the quickest path to enlightenment. Anyway, so try to practice like that, Tonglen, combining these attitudes, compassion and loving kindness with each breath. Mm. And then gradually relax your attention. I know one friend he's a long-term Dharma practitioner, but yeah, I don't know, a little up and down, also not entirely kind of stable all the time. Anyway, once he wow, yeah. Anyway, once his wife left him because he wasn't behaving so well, whatever. But his wife just left him. He didn't see it coming at all. It's totally unexpected. Just one day, she totally left him, and he was quite older now at that point in his life. And he told me he basically had like a nervous breakdown. He walked. Anyway. He went out walking to the market, and he was just like, totally grief stricken, crying, and sort of like hyperventilating even. And then he thought to himself, like, what are you doing? Like, you're a Dharma practitioner. It's just the way you behave. And then he thought, I'm going to practice Tonglen. And he started practicing Tonglen, like in that moment. And it totally relieved him. He just totally stopped hyperventilating, stopped kind of totally freaking out, and became quite, calm and could accept that situation. And yeah. It's good. I mean, it's a very powerful practice. And if you're going to remember to practice like right in the moment when, things are not going well, it's very powerful. It really helps. Also, when you're sick, when you have illness, when you're facing different obstacles, it's very powerful just psychologically to deal with the obstacle, but also karmically to purify negative karma. So yeah, it's really the essence of this kind of genre of teaching, mind training teaching. So let's continue going through the root verses here. unless there's any questions at this point, but otherwise, you can always ask. Just put your hand up if you have questions. Yeah, so, and you should begin by taking from yourself. These two should be made to ride on the breath. Concerning the 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues, the instruction to be followed in short is to be mindful of the practice in general by taking these words to heart in all activities. So here the 3 objects, there's 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. So this means the 3 objects are objects that are pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So, and then in regard to those, we generate the 3 poisons. In regard to objects that are pleasant, we generate attachment. With relation to objects that are unpleasant, what do we generate? Aversion. Yeah, anger. And then regard to objects that are neutral, what's the 3rd poison? Attachment, anger, and ignorance. Yeah. With regard to objects that are neutral, we generate ignorance, grasping at them existing from their own side. And then, so with these, so when we see these 3 poisons, attachment, aversion, anger, ignorance arising, then we practice Tonglen. Where are these arising from? From this ignorance and self-cherishing at my heart. So I put it on them. Think, may these ripen upon me and my own ignorance, self-cherishing, thereby destroy it, and may I thereby be free from it, myself and others. And thereby we generate three virtues, right? The opposite of attachment, we spoke about yesterday in Exploring Buddhism. Non-attachment. The opposite of aversion or anger, non-anger, basically. I don't remember what it was called exactly, but non-hatred. Yeah, it's called non-hatred. And then the opposite of ignorance is, we called non-delusion there, but you can say non-ignorance, non-delusion. It's all the same thing. So you generate the opposite of, that's the 3 virtues I was talking about here. Mm-hmm.
How are the 3 virtues different from the antidotes for each of these?
They're not. It's just a different term for the same thing.
Okay.
It's just, here it's a poem, right? So they're using
Yeah.
poetic license.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So what it means by the 3 virtues is just the 3 antidotes to attachment, aversion, and ignorance.
Okay. Yeah, but when you do the meditation on attachment, the antidote for attachment is for us to not think about just the greatness of that object, but to actually think of that object as balanced. Look at both the positive and the negative qualities.
Yeah, that's
And
one.
similar-
I mean,
That's one.
One antidote. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to be creative, like how to use this. No.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for anger, it is usually.
But you're trying to
patience.
generate in its place. So imagine you're practicing Tonglen,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like, if you yourself or another person, they have attachment, then you think, okay, may this ripen upon my own selfish attitude, and may others be free from it. And then, so imagine then generating the opposite, non-attachment. So if you're meditating like on another person, you see they have a problem with attachment, then you imagine drawing their attachment out of them, put it on your self-cherishing attitude. And then they become free from it. And then when you're giving, imagine giving them non-attachment. And they generate non-attachment in their continuum. And if you're doing it with regard to yourself, you do the same thing. Just the visualization is a bit more difficult, but
I see.
that's the idea. So in place of when you see attachment arise, then meditating on it with Tonglen, in its place you generate non-attachment. The same with aversion, the same with ignorance.
I see.
Just like when they have suffering, you see suffering, you draw it upon yourself, and then destroys the selfish attitude, then give the happiness.
Yes.
So in place of suffering, take on the suffering, and give happiness.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at the chat. Question 4, whenever. Just wanted to know the 8 verses of thought transformation that were in the readings. How are they related to the 7-point mind training? Yeah, the 8 verses of thought transformation, which I don't know, maybe I'll get to next session. But basically they express the same sentiments as a 7-verse mind training, just in a slightly different way. But yeah, maybe it's a good question. Thank you for reminding me. I forgot it's even there. Because that's the 8 verses of mind training also. One reason I put there is because it's shorter. It's shorter, and it's a bit easier to memorize than this. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the past has often asked, audience to memorize 8 verses of mind training and recite it daily. His Holiness talked about how, because he used to travel a lot, flying all over the world. So he's talked about, I've heard His Holiness talk about how, sometimes sitting in the airport and then recite, well, he's got something to do, just sitting around waiting, just for, and you're surrounded by other sentient beings. Recite the 8 verses of mind training and, meditate on loving kindness, compassion for other sentient beings. It's very good. Yeah, the 8 verses of mind training is different. Yeah, I'll show you next class. Yeah. Okay. So concerning the 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues, the instruction to be followed in short is to be mindful of the practice in general. So mainly means the practice of Tonglen and the practice of transforming, problems into happiness in general by taking these words to heart in all activities. So you can use words like, like the 8 verses of mind training, or actually I'll show you another verse. Sorry for opening the share screen and closing it so often. I'm a bit probably making some of you neurotic. Here, there's this one verse, root verse from Nagarjuna for Tonglen this is from Shantidev. I'll come back to that later. I showed you earlier. Yeah, here. So this is one verse. You can, like a verse like this, you can memorize and then recite. May sentient beings be as dear to me as my own life, and may they be dearer to me than myself. May all their ill deeds bear fruit from me, so that's taking. May all the ill deeds, the suffering of others, ripen upon me. May it bear fruit for me. May it ripen upon me is another way to say that. And may all my virtues bear fruit for them. All my happiness, my virtues ripen upon others. So that's one verse you can use. I can send that out if I haven't already. I don't remember. And then another one I'll show you is in there's another. In Lama Chopa, when we do Lama Chopa, there's in the Lamrim prayer at the end. There is one verse that we recite 3 times. It's that verse. So let me just find it quickly, and then I'll show it to you. Okay, almost there. There we go. Okay. See, this is all about, the Tonglen. So I'll just read from here. Contemplating the advantages of, contemplating the faults of self-cherishing. This chronic disease of cherishing myself is the cause giving rise to my unsought suffering. Perceiving this, I seek your blessings to blame, begrudge, and destroy the monstrous demon of selfishness. So this is what you imagine at your heart as a black ball. The mind that cherishes mothers, kind mothers, sentient beings, and places them in bliss is the gateway leading to infinite qualities. Seeing this, I seek your blessings to cherish these transmigratory beings more than my life, even should they rise up as my enemy. So irregardless of how they treat me, may I cherish them. And then exchanging self-cherishing for cherishing others. In brief, infantile beings or childish beings labor only for their own ends, while the able ones, means the enlightened ones, work solely for the welfare of others, with the mind understanding the distinction between the failings of one and the advantages of the other. I seek your blessings. So this is a prayer to one's guru. I seek your blessings to enable me to equalize and exchange myself with others. Cherishing myself is the doorway to all loss, while cherishing my mothers is the foundation of all qualities, all good qualities. Hence, I seek your blessings to make my heart practice. See, my very heart practice is just like this it's mind training. The yoga of exchanging myself for others. And then Lama Zopa Rinpoche then adds in actually the 8 verses of thought transformation. He adds it into Lama Chopa there, which I'll read it next week. And then there's another prayer from the Buddha's previous lives from Chod practice. Chod practice is also based on this. And then he also adds in this other prayer. That's Lama Zopa Rinpoche, adds in a lot of prayers. And then this is the next, the LC. LC means Lama Chopa. It's the next actual Lama Chopa verse. So this is the main verse I'm talking about. This is the one we recite 3 times. That is, you just memorize this. If you want to use this practice in daily life, then you can use together with this verse. And thus, perfect, pure, compassionate Guru, I seek your blessings that all negative karmas, obscurations, and sufferings of mother transmigratory beings may without exception ripen upon me right now, and that by giving my happiness and virtue to others, all transmigratory beings may experience happiness. Right? Transmigratory beings means those who are circling through samsara, experiencing rebirth, then old age, sickness, and death, and then rebirth again and again. And that way they're like migrating birds, go between North and South America. They're going from birth to death, again and again. Yeah, so that's another verse you can use. Okay, Asha has a question here.
I think you mentioned this in the previous TB module, but I still want to ask again.
Sure, yeah.
Because when I
welcome.
read those sentences again and again, and if I meditate on them again and again, like all their sufferings, all their negative karma ripening on me, does that mean, and I know you're going to say, no, that doesn't mean, but does that mean my life is going to be just miserable?
No, your life will be the happiest life in the world. It's a paradox. No, it is a big paradox, no? It really is paradoxical, but you have to check for yourself, see, is this true or not, how not? That it's true, like the more you see, like the more I'm worried about, me and my, my life, my family, my job, my this, my that, my health, all my TV shows, my clothes, my car. There's so much to worry about, no? Just like the more we just leave all that and think, what about, others? May others be happy. May others be happy. May others be happy. By the way, you'll be much happier. And then also like my suffering, my tooth hurts, my head hurts, I'm too heavy, I'm not eating the right foods, I'm too weak, and my life is so terrible. No, all those suffering. And the more we think about our own suffering, the more it becomes like bigger deal. No, the more you think, okay, I'm suffering a little bit, but think about others. This person's suffering, this person has so many problems. The more we think about others, naturally our own feel like, okay, not a big deal. Like, so what? So like that. So it's kind of like that mentality, no? It's a bit of a paradox. We think, actually it is, we're doing it for our own welfare, no? But it's like by thinking, kind of obsessively about our own needs, our own thing, our own trip all the time, it's like we make ourselves miserable. By just thinking, what am I? There's 8 billion other people on the planet. No, I'm just one. Like, what does it matter? Everything I have comes from others. So I'll think about others. But I know also there's this thing that like, yeah, especially because I've never been, especially for women, especially for, like mothers and, in the family where like all the work is like expected, one person does it all. It's different, no? And I've never been in that situation, so I'm not so familiar. But, I've seen that it is a feeling like, yeah, but if I do that, if I just put myself out for others, I just end up being like totally exhausted and kind of miserable. So you do have to protect from that. That's a whole, issue. But so this doesn't mean just like, we have to be realistic where you're at. Like whenever I say this, I always think, but Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he wouldn't say that. No. But he's at this other level of practice that we're just not at. No, And also, I mean, and the reality is like he's also a tuku. He has a very privileged kind of life in many ways. Not always, he didn't always have like that, but like nobody's asking him to wash the dishes or clean the house or like go do the shopping or cooking. Like people are serving him hand and foot from morning till morning. Like, so it's a different thing, no? Not that he doesn't appreciate, but but also, Rinpoche will point out the past saints who just, they offer their body to lice and things like, or the Buddha in a past life offered his body to a tiger. It's like, we can't do that. No, we would be, if I offered my body to a tiger, I would be screaming for help. No, like within seconds, I'm sure. Like, so we have to be also realistic about what we can actually, how much we can actually put ourselves out. But this is talking about more an attitude, right? An attitude that we have. We'll come to that. There's a line. I'll jump to it right now just to show you because it relates. I'll jump to this line. Which it's related, which is down here. Where's the line? Oh yeah. Number 4. Transform your attitude, but maintain your natural behavior, right? So if usually when other people ask you to do stuff, then you say, no, I don't have time. Then you can do that. No, not quite like that. But yeah, the meaning's slightly different. But what it means is like, just because you're practicing this kind of meditation, it doesn't mean everyone you see like begging for something at the stoplight, you have to give them like whatever's in your wallet or something like that. Everyone asks you to do anything, you have to do all of that. That doesn't mean you have to kind of treat yourself in a way or let others treat you in a way that actually you don't feel is fair. It doesn't mean like that. It's the transforming the attitude, caring about others, and not making such a big deal of one's own suffering and one's own desire for happiness. And especially using hardship that we experience and we see others experience to transform into the path. No, so yeah, I hope all that helps. Okay, yes. Then we'll have a break, a short break.
So you mentioned offering the root virtues. Could you explain a bit more about virtues versus root virtues? And
roots of virtue.
Roots of virtues. And I think this is also quite difficult for me in the context of mandala offering, because it shows up like offering the roots of virtues.
Of virtue.
Because it's like, oh, well, I'm accumulating merit, but now I'm offering the root of virtues that I'm trying to accumulate away. So it's kind of
your roots of virtue, they're not like money in your bank account that if you give it away, you end up with less. You end up with more. That's like a cornucopia. Your roots, first of all, your roots of virtue mainly means like the positive karma, the positive energy you create through spiritual practice, right? But also, other things. But the roots of virtue by practicing pure morality, by practicing generosity, by practicing patience, by making offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you accumulate merit. But then when you think, I offer that merit to others, it's not like money going out of your bank account. You end up with less. Yeah. You guys, it's because actually that itself, offering your virtues to others, is a virtuous activity. So you are gaining more. No, you're getting interest. You're generating interest on your capital. No, so you end up with more. Yeah. So it's like that. But also I should say, because maybe I was a bit too flippant before. The practice, part of the practice is, it's not just an attitude either. It does also, we generate this attitude also to genuinely be able to strengthen our ability to really put ourselves out for others, to really serve others. No, yeah, with a happy mind, right? But yeah, we have to be careful not to go too far where our mind's becoming unhappy about doing that, because that'll set us back, right? So we have to be realistic about how much we can do. But the attitude, it's not just an attitude and externally we don't actually change our behavior in any way. I didn't mean to say that, which maybe I did sound like that a bit. But actually, we should see ourselves being able to be more, put ourselves out more for others. But also, and here's another important measure in this context, is we, just doing anything that as someone asks is not always beneficial. We also have to, because we only have limited time. And part of, the equation for how we use our time as a Dharma practitioner is what's more long-term in the what's beneficial in the long term. Like just, that's, it's like just cooking food for people is when we could be, meditating or studying, learning Dharma is not especially beneficial. Like if that's all we did, like all day long is like serve people food. If that we could genuinely make that like, we're doing Tonglen continuously then okay, right? But most of us, we can't do that, right? So, yeah. So, how do we have this precious human life? Death is coming. What's the way to make the most meaningful use of that human life? That's also part of the equation. No? It's not like that's also a way of serving sentient beings, like learning about Dharma, meditating, trying to generate more wisdom, more compassion. If we just serve sentient beings in such a way that it starts to undermine our very learning about and practice of Dharma, then that's counterproductive, right? So we have to, there's a balance. It's a complex kind of equation, right? Okay, but let's continue through the verses. So, yeah, okay, so that was conventional awakening mind, and now we go on to the ultimate awakening mind, right? By taking these words to heart, it is the instruction to be followed in short. So this is a summary. The instruction to be followed in short is to be mindful of the practice in general, mainly Tonglen, right? Compassion, bodhicitta, the antidotes to the afflictive emotions. It's all kind of in Tonglen. By taking these words to heart in all activities, and then I showed you those verses, one from Nagarjuna, one from Lama Chopa. So then, training in the ultimate awakening mind. Yes. Yes. We have a Google Drive for this class? Yes. Oh, we don't? We'll send it out by email. Yes. I know, I've got it. Yeah. Yeah, Lama Chopa and then the Nagarjuna one. But I'll send out a few things. And the 8 verses again. Okay, training in the ultimate awakening mind. Oh, I said I was going to stop for a break. Okay, forget it. No break. No. We only have 25 minutes left. And there's a lot to go through. So this is about emptiness. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because there's a whole module coming up. The next module is all on emptiness. But I'll read the verses and just explain. When stability has been attained, so stability in like bodhicitta attitude, impart the secret teaching on emptiness. Consider all phenomena as like dreams. So how are all phenomena as like a dream? So what is a dream, first of all? When we're dreaming at night, things appear, or in the day, whenever, when things appear, but the way they appear is as if they're real. But actually they're not real. They're just appearances of a dream. So like in a dream when we see like an ocean or a cliff or we're flying, it seems like we're really flying, or we see a mountain or a real ocean, a real person, but it's not. It's just a dream ocean, a dream flying, a dream mountain. It's dream things. So things appear in a way they don't actually exist. So they're using that analogy to say we should see all the time, all phenomena are like that. How? Because all phenomena exist, they appear to exist as independently things from their own side. Like the framed pictures on the wall, they seem like they just are framed pictures from their own side. Other people seem like there are other people from their own side. Oneself, seems like we are ourselves, totally independent. We have our own independent kind of existence and entity. That's what, but actually nothing exists like that because everything's a dependent arising, right? Just the idea of a framed picture depends upon so many other things. And then the picture itself depends upon many parts, and it depends upon a mind that imputes, framed picture. Independence upon that comes about. It is that thing. Just like, in relation to the self, independence upon all the parts of our body, all the parts of our mind, we observe those and we label I. Independence upon that self exists, right? But if you search for that self somewhere, like it appears like there's some real concrete entity, you know, the real I that moves from life to life. If you search for that all within the parts of your body, parts of your mind, you can't find anything because it doesn't exist. So in that way, consider all phenomena as like a dream. Examine the nature of unborn awareness. So unborn awareness is like the continual, the mind stream, right? Our stream of consciousness has no beginning, and therefore it's unborn, right? It's not like there was, it didn't exist at some point and then it was born, it came into existence. There's no beginning to the stream of our own continuum of consciousness. So say, look at this fundamental stream of consciousness that moves from life to life and examine the nature of that. It also is like an illusion. It doesn't exist from its own side. And then the remedy itself is released in its own place. So the remedy itself is this mind of wisdom, realizing that all phenomena are empty of existing from their own side. So we might grasp onto that and think, oh, well, that is the ultimate truth. That exists from its own side. But even the remedy, even that wisdom mind, release it in its own place. Analyze to see if that has any, concrete entity, if that has any inherent existence. When we analyze even that wisdom itself, it also has no inherent existence. So it's released in its own place in that sense. Place the essence of the path on the nature of the basis of all. So here, this idea of the basis of all, again, is like, actually it's a bit different view, but basically the view is that the idea is that there's a subtle continuum of consciousness that goes life to life, and that try to generate that most subtle level of mind that goes life to life, generate that as the essence of the path, as the wisdom realizing suchness or emptiness. That's what it's saying. Place the essence of the path on the nature of the basis of all, right? So once we generate that most subtle level of mind into a wisdom realizing selflessness, then, that it's like we're come very close to enlightenment. Like that's what enlightenment is, in a way, is you access that most subtle level of mind and then generate it in wisdom realizing emptiness. And then because it's realized something that's true, it will never lose that. That's indestructible. That's the Vajra-like, indestructible. And then we'll continually have that wisdom forever after. Then we'll never fall into ignorance, never fall into selfishness, never fall into attachment, never fall into anger or other petty minds. Right? So place the essence of the path on the nature of the basis of all. Nature of the basis of all is then the ultimate nature of the basis of all is the most subtle level of mind. In the period between sessions, be a creator of illusions. So then so imagine we're meditating deeply on emptiness. Then when we arise from the meditation session, in between sessions, see all phenomena as just like, things like phantom appearances, like illusions. Appearances that arise in dependence upon causes and conditions, but don't have any concrete reality from their own side. They're just appearances through the force of karma and other causes and conditions. So that's the short, presentation of training in the ultimate awakening mind. So these are both, that's actually, it says A because actually in the root text it comes before B here, but remember Pabongka Rinpoche flipped the order for practice. So this is all, of the 7 points of the mind training, this is the second point, the actual practice, training the awakening mind, which has ultimate awakening mind and conventional awakening mind. Right? Remember the first point was explaining the preliminaries. So this is then we finished the actual practice. And now we'll go on to the third point, transforming adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. Right? Okay, let's go on. Transforming adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. When the environment, so the external environment, and its inhabitants, all the beings who inhabit the environment, the human beings, animals, spirits, hell beings, all the beings who inhabit, when they overflow with unwholesomeness. So when there's lots of crazy things happening, like now, in the world, environmental destruction, wars, economic instability, political, instability, people mistrust of people, pollution, of the earth and the water and the air. So when the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness or negativity, transform adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. So you think, oh, this is all the result of our negative karma, of my negative karma, the negative karma of others. I'm going to totally not create any negative karma at all because I see what is the result of this. May all this suffering ripen upon me and destroy myself, my selfish attitude, and my own ignorance. May all of my well-being and happiness ripen upon others who need it so much. So like that. So transform adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment by using, this attitude of bodhicitta and tonglen, recognizing, the law of cause and effect and the suffering of samsara, all these things. Apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. So whenever you see suffering, practice tonglen. No? Whenever you have good fortune, offer it to others. Whenever you see others, the suffering of others or the suffering of yourself, place it on the one to blame for all. Place it on the one, banish the one to blame for all, or place it on this selfish attitude and the afflictive emotions, right? If you start to get irritated, angry at someone, get angry at their afflictive emotions. No? Think, oh, I want but care about them. Right? Apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. The supreme method is accompanied by the 4 practices. So the 4 practices are accumulating merit, purifying negative karma. So accumulating merit by doing virtuous things, meditating on loving kindness and compassion, making offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, making offerings to the poor, giving assistance to those who need it, doing meritorious things. So accumulating merit, purifying negative karma, right? So by making confession with the 4 opponent powers, or using the 4 opponent powers, the power of reliance, the power of the regret, power of the remedy, and the power of resolve. Resolve? Yes, thank you. And then you just Google 4 opponent powers. The 4 opponent. Yeah, 4 opponent powers. Yeah. So then there's other practices, purification, like most of you are familiar with, doing recitation of the Sutra of the 3 heaps with prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, Vajrasattva practice, reciting the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Cutter Sutra, and so forth. So purify, in short, accumulate merit, purify negative karma, then make offerings to malevolent forces. This one's a bit difficult, but I'll come back to it. And then make offerings to and supplicating the Dharma protectors. So, yeah, it's a bit foreign to, especially to, Westerners or those with modern education. So making offerings to malevolent forces here, the idea is that there's spirits who harm us, right? So make offerings to the spirits who harm us, like with sewer practice. And this is a very high level of practice. For most of us is quite very difficult to do, but it's even ask those malevolent spirits like to harm us more, because we can take that and it's more opportunity to practice patience and to practice purifying our own negative karma in that way. But this is something, don't do that if you're not really confident that you can do that, right? And then making offerings to and supplicating Dharma protectors. Also, I mean, if you don't believe in Dharma protectors, okay, just leave it. But if if it's something you believe in and believe is helpful, then there's different, like Paladin Lamo or Mahakala or Kala Rupa. It's mainly tantric practices, though. So if you're already practicing tantra, you maybe have a sense of what that's about. If you're not, then don't worry about it. Yeah. Okay. But the main thing is accumulating merit and purifying negative karma, because that becomes a support for the practice. So that's the 3rd point, transforming adverse circumstances into the path. And then the 4th point of the 7, the integrated practice of a single lifetime. In brief, the essence of the instruction is to train in the 5 powers. So the 5 powers are the power of propelling our intention. This means like generating the motivation of bodhicitta. At the outset, out of every day, At the outset of every activity, when we're going on a trip or something, send your motivation in front. So generate the motivation of bodhicitta and send that ahead all the time, propelling our intention to become enlightened in order to free all sentient beings from suffering. So always generate that motivation. And then the power of acquaintance, meaning acquaint yourself with that, habituate yourself to that again and again. And then the power of the positive seed. Let me just check. I'm going to check the commentary to make sure I get this right. Here, propelling ascension, the positive seed. First, undertake the practice of the positive. To do this, you offer your belongings to the teachers and the 3 jewels as gifts of the deceased. It is inappropriate. I mean, this is in the case of when you're dying, it's talking about. Means striving during the period between in virtuous activities. So basically it's accumulating merit. You create positive seeds. Here the positive seeds are white seeds, means like virtuous karma, right? When you generate a virtuous karma, it creates a positive seed for your own happiness and well-being in the future. So that's what it means. Accumulate merit and accumulate virtuous karma. White seeds, positive seeds that will ripen as good fortune and happiness in the future. That's what it's talking about. And then the power of eradication. So this is purification. It's the same as above, no? The purifying, eradicate negative karma, right? And self-grasping is the actual eradication of self-grasping. So the self-centered mind and also the ignorance grasping at a self, eradicate that. Use every experience of suffering to reduce and eradicate your own self-centered attitude and your ignorance grasping at inherently existent self. So that's the power of eradication. And then the power of aspirational prayer. Make prayers, for the future, that may this and this, may I develop realizations on the path, may I become enlightened, may all sentient beings be free from suffering, may the wars, stop, may we have, so forth and so on. May I meet spiritual teachers, whatever you need, for the spiritual path. Make aspirational prayers, but especially concerning your future lives and realizations for yourself and for others. Right? So that's why dedication is so important. Dedication. So like that. In brief, the essence of the instruction is to train in the 5 powers. The 5 powers themselves are the great vehicle's precept on the transference of consciousness. Right? So what it means is at the time of death, you can use these 5 powers. Transference of consciousness is a whole genre of practices in Buddhism to transform as when oneself is dying, you can practice for yourself. Or if you have quite a high level of realization, like great lamas do, then when another person, especially you have clairvoyance, right? When another person is dying, you can guide their consciousness to a future life. But the whole point is to guide your consciousness as it leaves your body, to transfer it into a good rebirth or into a pure land, right? So it's saying the best in the great vehicle, the Mahayana, the best transference of consciousness is just to practice these 5 powers, right? The power of propelling intention, generate bodhicitta again and again. The power of acquaintance with that, the power of positive seed, the power of eradication, and the power of aspirational prayer. And then there is an instruction here about, because he explains those in general, and then explains those specifically at the time of death. Like practice the positive seed. So as you see you're dying, give away all your possessions to others to accumulate merit. So give your possessions away to the poor or to monastic communities or other charitable organizations in order to create positive seeds. And then make aspirational prayers. Prayer that in the future may I have this and this rebirth. And then, eliminate any grasping at a self or a selfish attitude. And then generate bodhicitta, your conventional ultimate bodhicitta. And then keep that in mind, right, continually. It's like that. It's a habituation. Through habituation with the attitude of compassion or bodhicitta. You make your mind well acquainted with it. Yeah, through meditation. Yeah, through coming to classes like this. Yeah. Also, hearing, contemplation, and meditation. In brief, the essence of the instruction is to train in the 5 powers. Yeah, the 5 powers themselves are the great vehicles precept on the transference of consciousness. Cultivate these paths of practice. And then finally, the measure of having trained the mind. This is the 5th point. Integrate all the teachings into one thought. What is the one thought? Actually, Thupten Jinpa, so sometimes the translations are quite different. And here the translation, Thupten Jinpa's translation I prefer. It's very different and I think it's much better. He says, the intent of all the teachings converges on a single point, right? So instead of, it's similar, integrate all the teachings into one thought. Rather, it means the intent of all the teachings. So all the teachings by Buddha are for one purpose. They converge on a single point, meaning all the teachings were taught in order to overcome and destroy self-grasping, right? All the teachings of Buddha were for the point of, eliminating this grasping in a deluded way at this exaggerated sense of self. And then the selfish concern that comes with it, both of those. So it's saying, if we realize that and we know that continually, then that's one measure of having trained the mind properly, that we can integrate all the teachings into this one recognition, that we need to eliminate this deluded attitude, grasping and exaggerated sense of self, and then an exaggerated degree of concern for that illusory self, that self that doesn't actually exist. And then the primary importance should be given to the 2 witnesses. And here again, there's a quite different translation. It says, of the 2 witnesses, uphold the principal one. The 2 witnesses are, who is a witness of your spiritual practice? Others maybe can see some change, and you yourself. So others might see, oh, you're so much more generous. You're much more patient these days. You seem more cheerful these days. Okay, that's good. That's fine. But actually, others can sometimes praise us on the basis of something very small. Deep down inside, they don't really know what's going on inside of us, but we know, right? So those are the 2 witnesses. Others are a witness to us, and we are a witness to ourselves. Of those 2, us being our witness to ourselves is the principal one. That's the main thing. So take measure of yourself in a way that other people can't, right? Regarding the approval or disapproval of others and self, primarily rely upon your own assessment of yourself, such that you have no regrets. So, So you see, the translation here is quite different. This is actually a wrong translation, I would say. It says primary importance should be given to the 2 witnesses, right? It's totally not that. Thupten Jinpa, he's an amazing scholar, and he knows Tibetan much better than, almost any other translator. And not only that, he knows, because this, the Tibetan that's, used in this kind of, in the mind training in general, especially many of the Kadampa teachers, it's very pithy. It's very difficult. It's very antiquated Tibetan. So I totally, and this is also, he's translating in the context of a commentary, right? So of the 2 witnesses, uphold the principal one. I'll send you this version, actually, with these notes, so you can have this alternate translation. But again, I'm taking it from this this text, right? So if you like this mind training genre, you have to have this text. You ask someone to give it to you for Christmas. It's 722 pages, yeah. It's the Bible of mind training. Yeah. Okay. Bay says you can read 2 pages a day. Okay. Okay. Then constantly cultivate only a peaceful mind. Thupten Jinpa says only a joyful mind. It's a bit nicer. So constantly. So the purpose of this is like everything you encounter. When something fortunate happens, you recognize, oh, this is a result of my positive karma. Well done. I'm going to create more positive karma. When something unfortunate, and then think, and I'm going to offer this to others. May all of this good fortune ripen upon others. Even more happy, than before. And then when something miserable happens, you recognize, oh, this is a result of my negative karma. But now it's being exhausted. It's getting finished. and then you see others suffering, and you think, and I recognize them as the mistake I've made in the past. I absolutely won't engage in any non-virtuous actions henceforth. And then you see others suffering, and you think, may all of that ripen upon me, and may they be free from it. Thereby you transform it into, compassion. With compassion, you transform it into benefit to you and benefit to others as well. Because, the quicker you become enlightened, the quicker you can actually free others from suffering, right? So you learn to use any situation to cultivate joy and a happy mind. And then the measure of the measure of a trained mind is that it has turned away, it has totally turned away from selfish concern and from ignorance. And there are 5 great marks of a trained mind. Yeah, actually, I want to stop here. Are there any? I was going to stop 3 minutes ago to ask for questions. Are there any questions? Okay, then maybe we can finish that verse. No questions. The measure of a trained mind is that it is turned away. There are 5 great marks of a trained mind. So these are the 5. So first of all, so the 5 great signs or great marks that you've trained your mind well in this tradition are as a great being, that you become a bodhisattva, right? That you have this attitude of bodhicitta arises continuously and spontaneously in your mind, in your heart. That you're well trained in great actions, like the 10 perfections or the 10 constructive actions. The 10 perfections are, let me see if I can remember. I mean, the first 6 are easy, right? The perfection of generosity, the perfection of ethical discipline or morality, the perfection of patience, the perfection of joyous effort, the perfection of meditative concentration, good mental focus, and the perfection of wisdom. And then in addition, let me see. There's definitely the perfection of prayer is one of them. The perfection of aspiration is another. The other I don't remember. Yeah, sorry, but you can look it up. Yeah, I'm not sure that would come up with Google actually, because it's not so commonly. Anyway, I can look it up for next week. I don't remember right now. Then the 10 constructive actions, I don't know. But there are things like, like reciting sutras, like writing out sutras, creating holy objects, reciting prayers, different virtuous actions in terms of Dharma. Anyway, that you are great, that basically it's the idea that you continually engage in virtuous and wholesome actions in Dharma practice. You're able to transform everything into Dharma practice. Then third, as a great ascetic, you're able to endure difficulties, right? So you're able to do things like Roger said about Lama Zopa Rinpoche the other time, like refraining from sleep, or letting mosquitoes bite you, or just being entirely patient, dealing with very difficult to deal with people. You never get upset. So you're able to bear hardships as the great ascetics can. And then as a great holder of discipline, meaning you keep all your vows. You have perfect morality. You never lie or kill or steal, and you're able to keep all your vows very purely. And then as a great yogi, meaning that you, Neljorpa, that you're able to always engage in Dharma practice continually, day and night. You can transform everything day and night in the Dharma practice. Yeah. So that one, I mean, what's the difference between 5 and 2? I think 2 is more specific about the kind of actions you engage in, and then 5 is more like just the kind of person you are and the way you use your life all the time. It's slightly different, but anyway, there are 5 great marks of a trained mind. When the trained mind retains control, even when distracted, right? So even when you're busy and distracted, you automatically engage, like think in this way, just spontaneously. You automatically think with compassion and loving kindness, patience, and transforming hardship into the path, like that. Okay, let's dedicate briefly. Sorry that was a bit rushed, but I want to make sure we can finish next week. So again, if there's some questions, then please refer to the commentaries. Yeah. So we can dedicate all the merit we've created, that by the force of that, then may may the precious mind of bodhicitta, not yet arisen, arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not decline but increase more and more. May the Buddha Dharma flourish in the world. May all sentient beings be free from every form of dissatisfaction and misery, and have every form of well-being and happiness up to full enlightenment. And may the world, all the calamities in the world, destruction of the environment, so many violent conflicts, mistrust among beings, climate change, the degradation of spiritual teachings in general. May all of that be reversed, and may the world become, planet Earth, become a perfect place for Dharma practice. Yeah, in short, then we dedicate just as all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past have dedicated. Okay, thank you all. And next week is our last session as part of this module. We'll finish the prayer, the 7-point mind training. And then, we probably won't have time to go through the 8 verses of mind training in detail, but at least, maybe I can just read through and give a kind of brief summary of the essence of each verse. Actually, that was the first Dharma teaching I received from His Holiness Dalai Lama. It was 8 verses of mind training in Dharamsala. Okay. Take care. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your week.